So let's start the session now. So first question over here, it is regarding USD is available in Delhi at 1 USD is equal to 76.10, and further USD rate in London is given to be 1 USD is equal to 1.10 euro. What will be the euro to rupee rate? So we need to calculate the euro to rupee rate. So you will be telling me the solution today, because this concept regarding the chain rule we have already covered. So kindly please solve the numerical at the earliest, and kindly please let me know the answer. So let me tell you regarding it that 1 USD value over here is given to be 76.10 INR, and further 1 USD is also given to be equal to 1.10 euro. It is given to be 1.10 euro. So it is quite easier. Because you need not to find that you have to select the buy rate or the selling rate. Okay. So that is regarding it. So just equate this. So it will be equal to 76.10 INR and further equal to 1.10 euro. And you need to calculate what fraction? Euro by rupee rate. So euro by rupee rate would be equal to 76.10 divided by 1.10. So you can simply solve it using the simple calculator and there would be your answer. So it is 76.10 divided by 1.1. So that comes out to be 69.18. So that comes out to be 69.18. Okay, so that is the answer over here. Okay, so that was a easier numerical based on the previous concept. So now let us look at the different buying rates and selling rates. Before going through the numericals, let me tell you the concept regarding that what are the different rates available for buying and selling in the foreign exchange market. So we studied the different rates depending upon the transaction status. So depending upon the transaction status, we read about the different rates over there. Like we covered the ready or cash rate, and further we covered the term rate, and then it was the spot rate, and further it was the forward rate. Okay, but now in the international market, when you are transacting for different purposes, there are two kind of rates applicable. One, it is a TT rate, that is a telegraphic transfer, and it is a bills rate. And there are two variants, that is a TT buying rate or TT selling rate, and for the bill buying rate and bill selling rate. So you need to know that at what purposes we will be using the telegraphic transfer rates and what purpose we will be using the bill rates. Okay, so first of all, the major difference and the main difference between the telegraphic transfer and the bill transfer rate is regarding their definition. So in case of telegraphic transfer, there is basically no gap between the settlement at the two centers. So there is basically the transaction is realized on the same basis, simultaneously. Basically, in the case of the telegraphic transfer, the settlement is there in both the centers simultaneously. So there is no forward rate is applicable. There is no forward points which are applicable. So there will be no premium or discount applicable in the case of the telegraphic transfer rate. But in the case of the bills buying rate, now when we talk about the bills, as we discussed the previous concept also, that bill of exchange regarding it, it is somewhat related to it. So whenever the bills are to be discounted, these are to be presented, these are to be negotiated. In that case, the payment is not simultaneous. So there is no settlement simultaneous, no realization on simultaneous basis, and there we use the bills rate. Depending upon what rate is being quoted to you, it is the buying rate or selling rate. Okay, so if we want to sell the USD in the market, we will be able to selling it at the buying rate. So we will be getting basically the buying quote from the market. In the market. So it will be the buying transaction. Depending upon the situation. And further, when we want to buy USD from the market, and we will be able to buy the USDs at the selling quote. We will be able to buy the USDs. So in that case, it will be the selling transaction. Depending upon the situation, it will be the TT selling rate or the bill selling rate that would be applicable. So depending upon its buying rate or selling rate, exchange margins are added and subtracted. So we will be looking at the different factors of the TT rates and the bill rates. Okay. So first of all, we will be starting with the So first of all, we will be starting with the TT buying rate. So it is regarding the TT buying rate, that is telegraphic transfer buying rate. Okay, so just first of all we will be going through the numerical and I'll be telling you each and everything, that what is the main scenario in the transaction itself and how we can get to know that we need to select the TT buying rate. Okay, so first of all it says the bank XYZ received a money transfer of USD 10,000. So bank received a money transfer. Now whenever banks are dealing in the foreign exchange, how they deal, basically let us assume over here that XYZ bank is over here in India, and further for its operation in the counterpart country or in the foreign country, there must be their branches. It may be the case that they are having the branches over there, or they have a correspondent banking relation over there. So let us assume in case of USA, they are dealing with bank ABC, which is their counterpart, and further working as their correspondent bank. So ABC is working in the capacity of the correspondent bank. Okay, it means all the transactions related to the XYZ bank in the USA will be dealt by ABC bank, as a correspondent bank. Okay, so it is in the capacity of the correspondent banking. So in case XYZ will be maintaining a nostro account, XYZ bank will be maintaining a nostro account in the ABC bank. What does it mean by the nostro account? So nostro account is basically an account which you open in a foreign country bank in the foreign currency, which is basically having the foreign currency. That is basically the nostro account of the bank XYZ. For the bank XYZ, it is a nostro account of the bank. For bank XYZ, it is a nostro account of the bank. Let me explain to you again. So when Indian bank is opening any account, so any domestic bank when opens an account in the foreign country in the domestic currency of that country, in that case it is basically what account? It is said to be the nostro account. It will be said to be the nostro account. Now what is the scenario over here? It says XYZ bank has received a money transfer. So money transfer has been received by the bank XYZ amounting USD 10,000, and it has already been credited in the nostro account. So whatever nostro account is maintained by the XYZ bank with the bank ABC over here, it is basically what account? It is basically the nostro account. And further over here in nostro account, the amount of USD 10,000 has already been credited. So over here XYZ just needs to pay the amount to the customer. Let us assume that C must have taken the details regarding the nostro account from the bank XYZ, and further the money transfer has been credited on the part of customer C in the nostro account of bank XYZ maintaining with bank ABC. Okay, so that is the scenario over here. So now the entry is already credited, and that is the main thing that we need to emphasize. Why? Because it is very much important to differentiate between that what rate would be applicable. So in this case particularly, what rate would be applicable? It will be the telegraphic transfer rate applicable. Why? But because we know that in case of the telegraphic transfer, there is basically the settlement has already been done. In this case also particularly, the amount has already been credited. So there will be no time period, no wait period for the bank XYZ. Okay, so that is the scenario. Or now in that case particularly, now bank wants to pay the amount to the customer in domestic currency. Now the C is to be paid in INR, but bank has received USD in their nostro account. What does it mean? It means bank is in a position to sell the USD. So bank will have to sell the USD in the market. Now the bank will be able to sell the USD in the market at which rate? At the buying rate. It will be able to sell the USD in the market at the buying rate. Now what cost will be there? There will be the buying cost to the bank. So basically it is what kind of transaction? It is TT buying transaction. Okay, so first of all we get to know that what kind of transaction it is. It is a telegraphic transfer transaction or the bills transaction. Then we just figure it out that what cost will be there. So it is the buying cost will be quoted over there. So it is buying transaction. Which transaction? TT buying transaction. Now there is simple handling regarding the TT buying rate, that how you can calculate the TT buying rate. First of all, it is a spot rate. And as I told you, there is no forward contract in this case, so no premium or discount will be applicable, and further you will be subtracting the exchange margin. Just basically remember this thing, that in case of the buying transaction, whether it is TT buying or it's bill buying, you need to subtract the exchange margin. In that case, you need to subtract the exchange margin. In that case, you need to remember this particular thing. Okay, so in this case also the exchange margin will be subtracted. Okay, so that is the scenario, and further now we'll be covering the numerical based upon this. So bank XYZ received USD 10,000, and further the spot rate is given to be 76.30/45 INR. So this is the quote given, that is the spot rate given. So spot rate 1 USD is given equal to 76.30/45 INR. What does it mean? So it is the buying rate and it is the selling rate, and we want to sell the USDs. We want to sell the USDs in the market. So those would be sold at what rate? Those would be sold at the buying rate. So what rate would be there? So we will be capturing the rate equal to 76.30 INR. Okay, are you getting my point? So we will be basically considering the buying rate in this case. And further, 1 month forward differential is given to be 25/35. So is it applicable? No, it is not applicable, because the transaction has already been settled. So we need not require any kind of the forward differentials. Okay, exchange margin is given to be 0.10. So what would be the TT buying rate? As per the formula, we will be taking the spot rate, that is basically 76.30, and minus 0.10%, because we need to subtract the exchange margin from the spot rate itself. So we will be subtracting it. So it will be 76.30 minus 0.1%. That would be 76.2237. It is 76.2237. And what amount will be credited to the customer account? What amount will be paid? So 10,000 into 76.2237, it will be 762237. It will be 762237. It will be buying rate, sir, because we want to sell the USDs in the market. That will be how we will be basically depositing INR in the customer's account. Okay, so we need to sell the USD in the market, and further, if you want to sell the USD in the market, you have to sell them at the buying rate. Okay, so that is why we are taking buying rate over here. Okay, then we subtracted the exchange margin, and here comes your answer, 762237. Okay, so that is regarding the TT buying rate. I hope you must have understood this concept. Okay, so kindly please note it down. Note down the formula regarding it, that TT buying rate is equal to spot rate minus exchange rate, where TT rates are applicable, where settlement has already been realized or settlement is already done. In that case, we consider TT buying rate, and further, in case of buying rates, you need to subtract the exchange margin, whether it is TT's transaction or it is a buying rate. You need to subtract the exchange margin in the case of the buying transactions. Okay, then it is regarding the other formula, other numerical, which says USD is equal to INR 76.1030, and further 2-month forward is given to be 45/35. If a person is to remit the USD 10,000 after 2 months, what will be the cost to A? Now we need to calculate the cost for person A. Over here you are provided with the quote regarding 1 USD is equal to 76.10/30 INR, and further the forward points are also given for the 2 months. So the 2-month forward points are given to be 45/35, and further over here we want to remit the USDs. So the condition is like that: A wants to remit the USDs. So A went to the bank, and further he said that he want to remit the USDs. In that case particularly, first of all, bank has to purchase the USDs from the market. So USDs are to be bought. So bank is to buy USD. Okay, because they want to remit the USD. So if they want to remit the USD, first of all, they have to buy the USDs. Okay, now the USDs can be bought at what court? At the selling court. At the court where the market is ready to sell. So what court would be applicable? It would be the selling court would be applicable. So this is the buying rate and this is the selling rate. So what rate we will be taking? It will be 76.30. Now look at because over here he wants to remit after 2 months. Over here he wants to remit after 2 months, so we will be considering the forward points. So this is the buying, these are the buying points, these are the selling points, and after 2 months the selling points are basically lesser than that of the buying point. What does it mean? It means the currency is at premium or discount. Kindly please let me know, the currency is at premium or discount. We considered, we have already learned about this concept in the previous session, so kindly please let me know, you will be using the currency is at premium or discount. The currency is at premium or discount. Kindly please answer it fast. The currency is available at discount. Very good. When the selling is less than that of the buying, then it is a discount. So in case of discount, the forward points would be subtracted. The forward points would be subtracted. Over here, the forward point of selling cost are to be taken, and it would be minus 0.35. It would be minus 0.35. So it will be 75.95. It will be 75.95. That rate would be used for the calculation. So the cost for A would be 75.95 into 10,000. 75.95 into 10,000. So that would be the answer. So that would be the answer regarding it. Okay. So if you have the basics with you, you can definitely solve the numerical without any issues. Then it is regarding problem based upon the bills buying rate. Now what happens in the case of the bill of exchange? Now what happens? Let me tell the theory to you again. What happens in the case of the bill of exchange? So let us assume the case that over here is an exporter. Over here is an exporter, person E is the exporter and I is the importer, and further E has delivered the goods to I. Exporter has delivered or shipped the goods to I, and further the amount is yet not paid by the importer. Importer has not paid the amount yet. Okay, so in that case over here, exporter will be drawing a bill of exchange. E will be drawing a bill of exchange, and further this bill of exchange is to be accepted by the importer. This is to be accepted by the importer. So basically bill of exchange is an unconditional order. It is an unconditional order which basically binds the importer, or the debtor, that he will be paying the amount later on. So in the case if the bill of exchange is presented and on presentation the amount is to be paid, in that case it is the sight bill of exchange. So if the amount is to be paid on presentation of the bill, then it is said to be the sight bill of exchange. And further, if a fixed credit period is given, then in that case it is Usain's bill of exchange. So whatever bill of exchange is drawn by the exporter, it is to be accepted by the importer. And after acceptance it will be given back to the exporter. Now the exporter is having the bill of exchange which is accepted by the importer. And in case of international transactions, international trade, the bill of exchange is co-accepted by the importer's bank. So that E is in a better condition. So in that case, if I defaulted, the bank of importer will be having the liability to pay the amount. Okay, so we will not be going in that much depth. You just need to remember first of all that in case of bill of exchange, what happens? The seller draws the bill of exchange. And it is accepted by the buyer and further given to the seller again. Further handed over to the seller again. And now the exporter is having the bill of exchange which is accepted by the buyer. Okay, now what I just told you, that if this bill of exchange is presented and on presentation of the bill the importer is to pay the amount, then in that case it is said to be sight bill of exchange. But it could be the case that a fixed period has been given, a fixed credit period has been given by the exporter to importer, that importer is to pay maybe in 1 month or 2 months or 6 months, depending upon the agreement between the two. So if there is any kind of credit period given, in that case it is said to be the Usain's bill of exchange. Are you getting my point? Okay, so that is the case. Okay, now over here you also need to know one more concept, that is regarding the transit period. That is regarding the transit period. So whenever, so basically in case of the international trade, as I told you, that banks are involved, that the banks of the exporter and importer are involved, because they do not know personally each other, because the exporter as well as importer do not know personally each other. So banks are involved because banks are reputational institutions, and further they can rely on the bank. Okay, so now in the case we are considering ABC is bank of importer and XYZ is bank of exporter. Let us assume that exporter is in India and further ABC and I are in USA. These are in USA. Okay, now what will happen? That whenever this bill will be presented by the bank of XYZ, because after E has received the accepted bill, E will be basically requiring the liquidity. Exporter will be requiring the liquidity. It may be the case that the bill is to be paid after 2 months or 3 months, or it could be the case that the bill is first of all is to be presented to the importer's bank, then it will be paid. So E do not want to take that much scenario. He do not want to do that much activity regarding it, that first of all he will be presenting the bill, then he will be paid. He do not want to go through those conditions. Okay, so he just give the accepted bill to the bank XYZ. And further ask the bank to discount this bill. Now what will be the bank XYZ will be doing? XYZ bank will be discounting the bill and further giving a amount to exporter on the same day. Exporter will be provided with the liquidity, and further XYZ bank will be cutting down his share. XYZ bank will be cutting down its share and will be providing the rest of amount to the exporter. So let us assume if the transaction was worth rupees 10,000 USD, XYZ bank will pay exporter with 9,800 USD equivalent amount, and further on the presentation date or on the credit end period, XYZ bank will be presenting this bill to the bank of the importer itself, Okay, so that is the scenario. After that, the bill has been presented to the importer's bank. Now over here the importer will be remitting the amount on the behalf of the importer. The importer's bank will be remitting the amount on the behalf of the importer. So whenever this amount will be credited to the nostro account of the XYZ, because XYZ bank will be presenting this bank through its correspondent bank. XYZ bank will be presenting this bill of exchange to the importer's bank through its correspondent bank. Let us assume that PQR bank is a correspondent bank of XYZ in the same country, that is in the USA. So XYZ bank will be forwarding the bill of exchange to the PQR, and further PQR will be basically presenting the bill to the ABC for the payment. And whenever the amount will be credited to the nostro account of XYZ bank, which XYZ bank is maintaining with the correspondent bank in USA, then basically it is said to be the transit period. So what the time period in between when the bill is presented by the exporter's bank, that is when the bill of exchange or the bill has been presented by the exporter bank and till the amount is paid by the importer's bank and it is credited to the nostro account of the exporter bank, that time period is said to be the transit period. So the time gap between the bill is presented and further the nostro account of the bank is credited, it is set to the transit period. That is the concept of transit period. So in this case it is given to be transit period. What does it mean? It means for that much period, the bank will not be receiving its money. So there is to be done a forward contract. So a forward contract is to be done. So in this case particularly, if we look at the question itself, it is said that transit period is given to be 20 days. It means the exporter's bank will not be receiving its money for the next 20 days when the bill will be presented by the bank. And further bank will be having to enter into the forward contract. Okay, so that appropriate exchange margin can be taken and appropriate cost of the USD can be presented to the exporter. Okay, so that would be the case regarding it. Are you getting my point? Or I should be explaining it again? So you know the concept regarding the bill of exchange, that what it is. After the bill of exchange is accepted by the importer, the exporter will be giving this bill of exchange to the bank itself for the discounting purposes. Bank will be providing liquidity to the exporter as such, and further the bill will be presented by the XYZ bank through its counterpart in the USA or the correspondent bank. Okay, and once the correspondent bank will be presenting the bill to the ABC. ABC will be having, that is the banker of the importer, will be having a liability and obligation so as to pay the amount. So the amount will be credited to the nostro account of the PQR. So the time period between that the bill is presented and further the nostro account of the bank is credited, it is said to be the transit period. Now for such transit period, the bank will not be receiving its money, so a forward contract is to be booked. So a forward contract is to be booked, and further we get to know in that case particularly what kind of rate would be charged. The bill rate will be charged. The bill rate will be charged because the transaction is not simultaneous. It is not realized. It is not realized. It is not settled yet. Okay. So in that case, what rate would be charged? Bill rate will be charged. But yet we do not know that it will be a buying rate or selling rate. That it will be a buying rate or selling rate. Okay. So when the amount is credited to the nostro account of XYZ, let us assume after 20 days, the amount is credited by ABC bank into the nostro account of the XYZ, which it is maintaining with the bank PQR. It is credited after 20 days. So let us assume 10,000 USDs are now credited to the PQR bank. Okay, now in that case, the bank XYZ has to sell these USDs in the market. The bank has to sell these USDs in the market so as to get the Indian currency. So the bank will be selling 10,000 USDs, and for what rate would be quoted for the selling? It will be the buying rate which will be quoted. It will be the buying rate which will be quoted. So we get to know what rate is to be used. It is the bills buying rate that is to be used. It is the bills buying rate that is to be used in this particular case. Okay, are you getting the point? So that is the scenario behind it, and you need to know the basics regarding that when we need to use a bill rate, and it will be buying rate or selling rate. It will be buying rate or selling rate. Okay. So once you are clear with the concept, you can now solve the numerical with ease. Okay, because you know that in case of bill rate, there will be a forward contract. So in case of forward contract, you have to either add the premium or subtract the discount forward points, and further you need to subtract the exchange margin, as I already told you that in case of the bills buying rate, exchange margin is to be subtracted anyway. Okay, so that is the case. Now what is the spot rate? Spot rate is given to be 72.30/40. So in this case, the spot rate is given to be 1 USD is given to be equal to 72.30/40 INR. So that is the spot rate you are provided with, and further it is given transit period is given to be 20 days and exchange margin is 0.15%, and the exchange margin is 0.15%. What does it mean? It means it will take at least 20 days. It will take up to 20 days when the nostro account of the bank will be credited. Okay, so it's a forward transaction. Okay, so you need not to go through all the queries. You just need to remember, if it is a forward transaction, in that case it would be basically what rate? Bill rate would be there, and further we want to sell the USD in the market, so those will be sold at the buying cost. So it is a bills buying rate. Okay, so that is regarding it. So it is a buy price, it is a selling price, and which price we are dealing with? We are dealing with the buying cost. So it will be 72.30 you will be using, and further now they said that transit period is to be rounded off to the higher month. It is to be rounded off to the higher month, so we will be taking the 1 month forward rate. So 1 month forward points are given to be 0.40/0.50. So these are buying points and these are selling points, and selling is greater than buying, so the currency is available at premium. So these points would be added up to the rate itself. So these will be added up, so it would be 72.70. So the price would be 72.70. Okay, now after that you got the spot rate plus minus premium or discount. You just need to subtract the exchange margin. Just keep one thing in mind, you need to subtract the exchange margin or add the exchange margin once you have calculated the forward rate. So in this case, we calculated forward rate by adding or subtracting the forward points. So it is a 72.70, and just you need now to subtract the exchange margin, that is 0.15%. So if we consider 72.70 as A, so it will be 0.15% of A. So it will be 0.15% of A. And what would be the price? It would be 72.7 minus 0.15%, that is 72.59. That is 72.59 multiplied by 10,000. So this much amount is to be credited to the, exporter. Okay, this much amount is credited to the exporter over here. That is regarding it. Okay, that is regarding this particular question. I hope that you must have understood the concept. Okay, next question, it is regarding the TT selling rate. Now in case of telegraphic transfer, there is the adjustment, the settlement has already been done. And further the selling cost would be there, so it would be TT selling rate, which we will be using over here. So first of all, let us read the question. It says an importer has requested you to issue a demand draft on USA for USD 50,000. So importer has requested you. So it is a case that here is an customer who is an importer, and further he went to his bank XYZ, which is in India. Let us assume that XYZ bank is in India, and he requested that he want to issue a demand draft on USA. It means the demand draft would be in USD, that is in foreign currency. So XYZ bank will be contacting its counterpart, that is a correspondent bank where it is maintaining its nostro account, so as to purchase the USDs from the market. So the scenario is that if you want to issue demand draft in foreign currency, let us say we want to issue demand draft in USD, in that case, first of all, you have to buy the USDs. So over here, bank wants to buy the USD from the market. And at what cost those would be bought? Those would be bought at selling rate. Now, is there will be any time delay? Any kind of time delay? No, that there will be no time delay, because the bank will be buying the USDs on the rate it is available, on the spot rate it is available. Okay, so after buying, the amount will be credited directly to its nostro account. The USDs will be directly credited to its nostro account. So there is no delay. So the transaction would be almost simultaneous. Okay, so that is why it is a TT rate we will be using. And now what rate is being quoted over here? Over here, selling rate is being quoted. The selling rate is being quoted. So it is what transaction? It is TT selling rate transaction. It is a TT selling rate that would be quoted over here. Okay, so in case of buying rate, TT buying rate, or any bills buying rate, you need to subtract the exchange margin. But in case of selling rates, you need to add the exchange margin. Okay, so that would be the case over here. So what is the spot rate that is given over here? It is given to be 76.32/48. So it is a buying rate and it is a selling rate. And further, which rate we need to consider over here? We need to consider the selling rate. So it is 76.48. So there is no forward contract. So we do not need to add or subtract the forward points, because there is no forward contract. It would be a simultaneous contract where the amount would be directly credited to the nostro account of the bank XYZ. Okay, so that is the case. And further, that is it. We need to add the exchange margin. So we will be adding 0.15% of the exchange margin. So that would be regarding the answer. So 76.48 plus 0.15%, that is 76.59. And further, we will be multiplying it with 50,000. So that is the answer, that is 3829736. So it is the answer 3829736. This would be the answer over here. Okay. Buying rate we will be using when we are being quoted buying rate, and selling rate we will be quoting when we are quoted with the selling rate. Likewise, in this case, we want to buy the USD. So we can buy the USD as what rate? At what cost? We can buy the USDs at the selling rate at which the market is ready to sell. Okay, so it will be the selling cost which will be quoted to us. So basically it would be the selling rate. Okay, so that is regarding the TT selling rate. So now we covered TT buying rate, bills buying rate, and further TT selling rate. Now we will be covering the problem on bills selling rate. Now what happens in the case of the bills selling rate? What happens in the case of the bills selling rate? It is basically a scenario where you are to retire a import bill, where you are to retire a import bill. So in the case of the bills buying rate, we learned the concept regarding the export bill. We learned the concept regarding the export bill, where the exporter went to the bank to discount the export bill. Now in case of bill selling rate, we are taking the example of the retirement of the import bill. So wherever you saw the keywords like retirement of the bill, there we will be using the bills selling rate. So first of all, you need to understand that what is retirement of import bill. So it is not a bill that is specifically drawn. It is not a bill that is specifically drawn for the retirement purposes. So it is the same export bill which is drawn. So now let us understand this concept first of all. So what would be the scenario? So we will be taking the same parties. So person E is over here in India, and further he is dealing with the bank XYZ, and further person I is over here in USA who is dealing with the bank ABC over here. A bill was drawn by the exporter, and further it was accepted by the importer and given back to the exporter. Now E went to the bank XYZ so as to discount the bill. Now XYZ bank will be discounting the bill and will be crediting the exporter simultaneously, and further sending the bill through its correspondent bank for the presentation. So let us assume PQR is the correspondent bank of the XYZ bank in USA, and further PQR bank now will be presenting this bill to the ABC bank. It will be presenting the bill to the ABC bank over here. Now in that case, if the bill is presented to exporter, in that case let us assume the bill is presented to importer over here, not exporter, presented to importer over here. Now importer along with the import bill along with the export bill documents, export bill documents basically will be requesting the bank for sanctioning for the retirement of the bill, because he wants to pay the export bill amount. In that case, when the documents are given by the importer to the bank so as to retire the bill because he wants to pay the amount of the export bill, in that case it is said to be the retirement of the import bill, because basically this particular bill was drawn because he imported the goods. Okay, so that is why it is said to be the retirement of import bill. That is why it is said to be the retirement of import bill. Are you getting my point? So this is basically the same export bill which was drawn by the exporter and was accepted by the importer and was presented by the bank through its correspondent part, and further now this export bill is to be retired. That is why the terminology is just changed. It is said to be the retirement of import bill. Now what will happen in that particular case? First of all, now the transaction is to be done on the part of what bank? It is to be done on the part of the ABC bank. So particularly over here, first of all, there will be the rate applicable, the TT selling rate. Because why? Because bank ABC, if he wants to retire the import bill, that is the amount is to be paid. So if the bill was drawn in USDs, let us assume that the bill was drawn in USDs. In that case, bill amount is to be paid in USDs. So in that case, ABC bank wants to buy USD. So ABC bank would be buying the USDs at what court? ABC bank will be buying the USDs at the selling court. Okay, so now what rate would be applicable? Because buying USDs will not take any time. It would be a simultaneous process. You just have to give the money as per the spot rate and you can buy the USDs. That is the case. So what rate would be applicable over here? You need to understand this concept particularly. Regarding that, you need to understand that when the USDs are to be bought, that is basically a simultaneous transaction. There will be settlement simultaneously. Because when the amount as per the spot rate is paid, the USDs will be credited to the ABC bank's account itself. Okay, so the USDs will be credited directly to the ABC bank after they have given the payment as per the INR. Okay, So that would be the case. The USDs will be credited over here. So what transaction it would be? It would be the TT selling. It would be the TT selling transaction. It would be the TT selling transaction over here. So that is why in the case of the bill selling rate, it is written that spot rate plus TT selling exchange margin. That is, it is written spot rate plus TT selling exchange margin. Now after that, the amount will be credited. The amount will be credited to the nostro account of the bank. It will be credited to the nostro account of the bank PQR on the behalf of the importer. ABC Bank will be paying the amount to the nostro account, will be crediting the amount to the nostro account of the XYZ bank, which it is maintaining with bank PQR. Okay, but now after that, importer will not be paying the amount simultaneously to the ABC Bank. So there will be some credit period. Involved. That is why we need to consider the bills selling exchange margin. So first transaction margin was related to when the USDs were bought from the market. That was related to the TT selling exchange margin because there was settlement simultaneously. But now after paying the amount by the ABC Bank to the counterpart, to the nostro account of the other bank, the amount will be paid on later on date. In that case, what will happen? In that case, bills rate would be applicable. So that is why we will be taking the bills selling exchange margin. So accordingly, now you need to solve this question. So what is the spot rate given over here? The spot rate is given to be 72.3040. So it is basically the buying rate and it is basically the selling rate. And what rate we will be using? What rate we will be taking? It will be the selling quote now. So we will be taking the selling quote. So it will be 72.40 quote that we will be using. And further you need to add the selling exchange margin, which is given to be 0.15%, So we will be adding 0.15% to it. And after that we will be adding up the bills selling exchange margin to this whole term. Okay, so if it is said to be A, then we will be adding the bills selling exchange margin to it. So it will be 0.20% that it would be added to it. 0.20% that would be added to it. Okay, so we need to just calculate it now. So that is basically 72.4 plus 0.15%, and then you need to add 0.20%, that is plus 0.2%. That the rate would be over here 72.6536. So that would be the rate, and accordingly we just need to multiply. That regarding 50,000 USDs were there, so we will be multiplying it with 50,000. So that would be regarding the question over here. So it would be 36,32680 regarding the answer over here. Have you understood the concept? Still, if the ABC Bank is having the USD, so the question over here is regarding if the bank is already having the USDs in their account. Let us assume ABC Bank is already having USD in the account. The bank would be taking the advantage of it now. The bank would be quoting the rate to buy the USDs from the market. The bank will be quoting the same rate now. Why the bank would not be taking the advantage of the market rates? Because bank is there so as to earn some profit out of it now. So bank will be quoting the price to the customer as per the buying rate. It will not be saying that it has already have the USDs in its account and further it need not to purchase the USDs. Okay, so that is not the case. So the rate is to be quoted as per the market rate and not as per the foreign currency that you are maintaining in your nostro account. Okay, so that would be regarding it.
Thank you so much and see you again in the next video tomorrow.